Kaylee, we are on.
Hey, Coach, can you hear me okay?
Yeah, I can.
All right, we'll go ahead and get started with questions.
Okay.
Hey, Sean, Josh Reed here. The decision to have Tre'Davious White kind of shadow, sorry about that, their top wide receiver there, and the job that he did. Could you talk about what you saw on film?
Yeah, I thought it was a matchup that Tre'Davious was up to the challenge for, and thought the defense staff did a good job with the plan overall. And then Tre'Davious executed. McLaurin's a good receiver, and he's off to a great start in his career. So there was a good matchup to watch, and I thought Trey did a good job.
Thanks, Sean.
Yeah.
Hey, Sean, it's John. We understood the talent level that was on Washington's defensive front after really diving into the film. How do you feel the offensive line played yesterday?
Yeah, I thought they did some really good things, John. They really did. I thought there was times when they moved the line of scrimmage in the run game.
Announced classes would go remote for a week. This was due to the Erie County Health Department's guidance, which called for all unvaccinated students in a class to quarantine if there were 13 full classes plus a bus.
Did somebody
It
mute
would
that,
adopt the
please?
state's guidelines to quarantine, lowering the number of quarantines significantly. Now, Superintendent
Hey, Kaylee. Ready to go?
Can you guys hear me?
Yeah, sorry, Sean. If you could restart that,
Yeah.
just your thoughts on the offensive line play yesterday.
Yeah, no, I thought they did a good job, John, in a lot of areas. They moved the line of scrimmage in the run game. They gave Josh some time. I thought there were some moments where he did get affected. It's never going to be 100% where he's clean, but I thought one thing I thought was things were timing up well for us. There was enough where the ball was coming out early, enough when the routes were timing up well in terms of their rush, because it is a good rush. So we just have to continue to grow and get better. And I've been, pleased with the progress I've seen the last 2 weeks, obviously with more work to be done there.
And on the other side, the defensive front, not the sack numbers from a week ago, although 6 would be tough to top. But how do you feel that they affected the game? Yeah,
I mean, I thought at times our run defense was where it needed to be. But quite honestly, I felt like we could have played and affected the game more than we did up front. And so now I'm looking for consistency. We're looking for consistency, and it's got to be every week. And that's got to start this week.
Thank you.
Pat, we can't hear you, so we'll come back to you. Jay, you're up next.
Hi, Sean. Can you hear me?
I got you, Jay. Yeah.
Thanks. Zack Moss, has gone from, inactive in week 1 to being your leading rusher. Just the turnaround that he's done and the job that he did yesterday, it seemed like he, showed some elusiveness. He ran, effectively again. Just how impressed were you with his performance yesterday, and just, how he's responded here over the last, first few weeks of the season? Sure.
Yeah, he's done a real solid job. I thought Devin had some good runs in there as well, so they've been a good combination over the last 2 weeks, and that's what we expect moving forward. And Zach, to your point, I think came back off of being inactive that first week and was hungry. And I think that's a good thing. Sometimes playing time is a great motivator, right? And never want to directly send that message, but indirectly it happened for the reasons it happened. And I think he's come off of that, making the best of every opportunity that he's gotten since that point. And I'm seeing a hungry football player, and I love it.
Yeah. And then secondly, have you had any chance to get an update on Jordan Poyer? I know he came out of the game kind of late there.
Yeah. He'll be day to day at this point. We'll just continue to monitor it as it goes here.
Cool. Thanks, Sean.
Yep. I can't hear you, John. Looks like we're having some difficulties here.
John, we can't hear you. We'll go to Nick Fierro next.
Okay. Hi, Sean. I hope you can hear me. Just getting back to that defensive line for a little bit. You do have some guys that haven't played well. I guess I'm looking at Boogie. He hasn't been active yet, and you have some guys that have a logjam at that position. Do you begin to maybe start to see about rotating those guys in there and getting them up on game day? Guys like Boogie and Efe Obata and Harrison Phillips.
Yeah, they're definitely options for us. They're good football players. I know they're hungry. They're hungry to be out there, and that's a good thing. So I think there's good competition at that position, which helps us.
Coach Mookie Hawkins, Workforce Sports Cincinnati. How you doing, sir?
Good, Mookie. How are you?
I'm great, Coach. Great offensive line play. Keeping Josh clean. He was able to play at an elite level. Carter, talk about his performance yesterday, Coach.
About Josh's performance?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I thought he got off to a good start. The third down completion to Gabe over the middle was a laser, and then it just from there he got into a really good rhythm, quite honestly. And the offensive line again played a big part in that. And so I like how Josh took what the defense was giving him at times, and other times he created on his own. And I think there was a good balance. I thought Coach Dable did a good job of changing the looks to the defense and got him in a good rhythm. And then spreading the ball around to different targets is a healthy approach as well.
Yeah, man, that one-on-one go to the Dawson Knox, man, isolated was, I know that probably had you pretty pumped to see Dawson Knox catch that pass one-on-one like that. Once again, flip side on the defense, you sent the house a little bit last week. This week, the kind of opposite, relying on your front four. So what did you find out about your quality depth up front, Coach?
Well, we've got depth, but overall, I think we didn't play our best game up front. And we got to play better. And those guys, they're aware of that. And we've got to have a great week of practice to continue to grow as a team and as a defensive line in this case. So that starts with me. I got to do a better job. And so I'm looking forward to getting back on the field here in a couple of days.
Thank you for your time, Coach. Good luck this week.
Thanks, Mookie.
Hey, Sean, John Worrell.
Hi, John.
I think we've all got to step up our Zoom. Sorry about that. Just when it comes to facing untested quarterbacks with a defense that has a lot of experience, especially in the back end, does that generally give the defense a bit of an edge in being able to communicate and throw different things at an untested quarterback?
I guess so. I mean, that's probably a better question for their quarterback, but I just think there's certainly some areas of value to continuity and veteran players, experienced players. And I think you see that around the league when you watch the different games. So I like our players, and I think our players do a good job of learning every week from the previous game. So that's what I'm looking forward to this week.
In that sense, how much respect do you have for Dave Culley's ability to groom quarterbacks, even a guy who is coming in pretty much cold after playing, only, whatever it was Thursday's game?
Yeah, David does a great job. He's a true professional. He's been in this business a long time. He and I worked together in Philadelphia, and where he was the receivers coach, did a great job there. So he knows offensive football. I'm sure he's off to a great start as a head coach, winning his first game down there a couple of weeks ago. And his team plays hard for him, which I have a lot of respect for that.
Thank you.
Hey, Sean, Tim Graham here. I wanted to ask you, you mentioned there about Josh getting into a rhythm early, and it sounds like a vague concept, but I know there's so much nuance in that, like you mentioned, feeding off the O-line and situations. But what about, or what is it that you look at before the game, whether it be the little things like when you arrive to the stadium, what you do in your routine, any meetings that might happen? Are there things that can be done to get into a rhythm even before the game starts?
Are you saying Josh getting into a rhythm before the game
Yes.
starts?
Yes.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's probably a better question for him, but I think all athletes, and it probably goes beyond athletes, all performers have routines that they like to have in place in the minutes leading up to the performance, right? So I'm sure Josh has his own routine. Just about every player that I've been around has their own. So, obviously, Josh was in a really good spot yesterday, and I expect that to continue.
Being that he's the quarterback, you don't necessarily pay any more attention to what Josh is doing before the game or how he's looking?
Oh, is that what you're asking? Okay. Yeah. I mean, I watch that. I watch different things as it relates to the weather, guys that handle the ball, how the winds are going to affect the game or not affect the game, things like that. I try and make sure I'm doing my job, which obviously Josh is a big part of that, and seeing how he's doing. But I have so much confidence in Josh, and just been around the game long enough. Sometimes guys can have terrible warm-ups, but have great performances, and vice versa. So you want to put stock in it, but only to a point. And I think there's a fine line there, in particular with a guy that I know fairly well and have a lot of trust and confidence in.
Thanks so much, Sean.
Sure.
Hey, Sean, it's Sal. I know you don't want to get totally into the weeds of strategy sometimes because it could differ from game to game, but when you have a chance to decide which way you want to go in a windy stadium at halftime because you have to kick the ball, kind of like how much goes into that? Or do you kind of go into it pre-planning that we always want the wind in the fourth quarter? And even we were having a debate even, in the media a little bit on the radio about maybe the last drive, if you score points, might factor into that, depending on if you do score points or not score points. So just a little bit of maybe insight on how you determine that, coming out of the locker room.
Yeah, I mean at halftime coming out of the locker room, Sal. Yeah, I think it's different. I don't want to go too far down this whole strategy wise, but I think it's different every week because of weather, to your point, which we normally get here. So, I would tell you that when the wind's blowing against you in that stadium, it's hard to move the football through the air. And so yesterday in particular, we wanted the wind in the fourth quarter, which is why we chose what we did in the third quarter. And I thought that's why specifically it was great to watch our offense in a backed up situation move the football out of our own end zone or end of the field there and put together a heck of a drive.
Could score actually matter and come into play? Like as the first half goes on, you might have to kind of flip flop your thinking. Maybe not in this specific instance, but could that happen throughout a game and say, we might want to have them go against the wind or with the wind, in the third quarter and vice versa in the fourth quarter?
Yeah, like I said, there's a lot of factors, and at the end of the day, it's kind of your gut feel as to where you think or what you think you're going to need based on how the game's trending and also where it could trend in the second half there. Yeah.
Great. I appreciate that answer. Thank you.
Yeah, sure.
Hey, Sean, it's John again. Real quick, after looking at film and talking with Heath and Isaiah and others, can you give us an idea of what happened on that kick return where the ball landed short and Washington ultimately got it?
Yeah, they were trying to hang it up there a little bit, and they did a good job of that. That being said, I thought we could have handled it a little bit better on our end also, and so that's again an opportunity for us to learn from that football game, and I know the guys are hard at work already talking about early this morning, and then working on it. They'll be working on it here the next day or two here. So, just things we can learn from, among others in the game, honestly, John.
And is that maybe just Isaiah's inexperience in that stadium returning kicks, not fully understanding the wind really does push it, especially yesterday, in that direction?
Yeah, it can be tricky. It's the way that ball hit basically a wall of wind and then went almost straight down, made it a little bit challenging, right? And so, but that's the life of a returner, in particular where we live, and so we've got to be able to do a better job with that, and we'll work on that this week.
Thank you.
Congratulations, Coach. Pat Freeman from 105.5 The Beat.
Thank you. Appreciate it, Pat.
I had a question for you. Yesterday, 44 passes, 33 rushes. Is that the ideal head coach ratio in pass and run?
I like things in moderation. Again, not wanting to get too much into strategy, but look, we're going to do what it takes to win. I believe in being a two-dimensional threat offensively, and I think that's important. So I was proud of the way we had both dimensions, if you will, available to us throughout the game, and we were able to establish a line of scrimmage at times and throw the ball again at times. So I thought we were, like I said, multidimensional, which can become a strength.
And my last question to you, Coach, the play of your offensive line, especially the tackles, I thought they did an outstanding job against one of the better defensive fronts in football. Can you talk about your weak strategy coming into this game, knowing you were going up against a decent defensive front with that many number one draft choices?
Yeah, it was a good front. I thought our guys battled up front, and they won some, we won some, and that's going to be the case at times. Having said that, I continue to think that we're making progress, excuse me, and steps in the right direction with our offensive line and the line of scrimmage, and I've been encouraged by how those guys work during the week to improve.
Thank you, Coach.
Sure.
That's all we have for today. Thanks, Coach.
Okay. Thanks, guys.
Hey, Coach, can you hear me okay?
Yep, I got you. How's everybody doing?
Great. We'll go ahead and get started. Thanks.
You got it.
Hi, Brian, Adam Benini.
Hey, Adam, how are you?
I'm good. Condolences
Good.
to you on the loss of your grandmother.
Yeah, I appreciate that.
I wanted to ask you about that. You know, Josh, we got a hint of it from Dion Dawkins in the post game where he talked about how that execution was for you, you know, on the field. And then Josh fully revealed what had happened during the course of the week. I guess, what are your emotions like? What does it mean to you to see your team rally around that at a time that's tough personally like this?
Yeah, well, I appreciate those guys, and they all know that. I got a lot of love for them. We're a close-knit group. You know, I appreciate them being there for me. And again, you know, my grandmother would have wanted to go out there and play well, and that's what she would want. She wouldn't want to sit there and have people feel sorry for themselves, and you know, think about how, you know, bad it is when you lose someone, which I'm sure most of you have. That's really close to you and a rock for you. She wants you to have a positive attitude and probably say a couple cuss words in there to get it going. And you know, she knew Josh pretty well, and Josh's family. So we appreciate him and appreciate all the guys, Dion and really all of them. Those guys have been fantastic. You know, you know, I'm very you know, blessed to be around those type of guys. So it was good.
Just a quick follow-up. It strikes me as maybe, you know, if they'd have probably rallied if it were year one, right? But you're this far into it. You talk about continuity.
Yeah.
It kind of goes way beyond X's and O's, doesn't it?
Yeah, well, I think this is the business. You know, look, we understand this business. It's a results-oriented business, but there's a lot of things that go into it. You know, you build relationships that are very important. It's a relationship business, you know, much like yours, but you're with each other every single day. And you're going to go through ups and downs. And, you know, Becky Hammond, a San Antonio coach, I was listening to her the other day, and she said, don't shun the hard. You know, there's going to be hard times, whether that's personal times, whether it's professional times. We've talked about this here the first 3 weeks. It's not always going to be perfect. I think the relationships you build with players and your coaching staff is really important, because you're going to have to weather through some storms. And you can go one of two ways when those things tend to happen. And I think if you have a positive attitude and you support one another, and there's some love and commitment to one another. Again, I always say players don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. And I think as the years have gone on, you know, at least the 20 plus years I've been in the league, I think that really holds true. And we got a lot of good ones on our team. I'm talking about as people.
Brian, thank you again.
You got it. Thank you, Adam.
You and your family.
Appreciate you.
Hey, Brian. Again, yeah, condolences about the
Thanks,
passing of your
Heather.
grandma. You know, what does it mean to you to see a performance like that? You know, just a total dominating performance by your offense. I mean, obviously they would have wanted to play like that, even if the game,
Sure.
you know, want to dedicate it to you. But the fact that they did, and you know, they were able to play like that, knowing that they wanted to play for you and in your honor, knowing what you were going through. Just what is that like to see the kind of game that they had?
Yeah, I'm happy. Look, I'm happy for the players. Every week when we come in, we get a win, and you know, our goal is to always go out there and coach well and play well. So when you see your guys that you're around, that you know how much effort and work they put into it, and how important it is to them and competitive they are. When you see them, you know, have a good week of practice and go out there and it translates into the game, you're happy for your players. It's a player's game, and you know, those guys got to go out there and lace up the cleats and put on the shoulder pads and go out there and ultimately execute. And you know, regardless, again, look, I'm not going to sugarcoat it. It was special to me. You know, I lost a woman that was most important in my life, and you know, those guys are just great people but they want to win no matter what. You know, they want to win every single week. We want to win in everything we do, whether it's a period against the defense, whether it's a 7-on-7 on air, whatever it may be, we want to win. I mean, that's you're in the competitive industry. But again, the relationships that you build with the people that you work with every day, I mean, that's real life. That's important. And that's important to me. You know, I got a ton of respect for those guys in the locker room, not just them, the assistant coaches that I work with. You know, being there for them, for their families, their children, and it goes both ways. I think that's special if you can create that, but it's got to be real and authentic. And, you know, that's certainly how I felt.
Thanks, Brian. Appreciate
You
it.
got it. Thank you.
Hey, Brian, it's John, thinking of you and the
Hey, John,
family.
thanks. Appreciate it.
If I may shift a little football.
Yeah.
Offensive line struggled week one, obviously against a very, very talented Steelers thing. They faced some talented people since. What has changed? Is it anything schematically, just playing better? What do you think has changed with that group?
Yeah, look, that's a really tough position to play. You know, and it's not just it's one guy. You got to have five guys kind of acting as one, and you're battling every single play, whether it's the run or the pass. And those guys, you know, since they've come back, they have good attitudes. I think they've improved every day. You know, we try to stay. Again, I talked about this last week. We're not interested in riding a roller coaster. I talked to those guys about that, you know, last week. Like, it's easy to ride a roller coaster in this league. So those guys are committed. They work hard. They just keep grinding in practice. They got a good mindset, and that's all they try to do. And I got a lot of appreciation for them.
I don't want to beat a dead horse here, but is the continuity, you know, it's already starting to develop here. Is that something that is factored into just an improvement?
Yeah, well, I think the biggest thing is playing well, you know, and those guys certainly do everything they can do to try to do the things that we ask them to do. You know, the communication up front is important. Does the continuity lead to success? You know, I'm not real sure. I think just playing well and communicating well and doing the things we need to do and understanding your matchup and how we want to try to get things accomplished. And then, you know, ultimately going out there and doing it. So it's a physical game. We know the game is, you know, starts up front. And, you know, our guys I just think they have a positive attitude. They try to work each week, try to get better. And certainly this will be no different this week.
Appreciate it, Brian, man. Thinking of you.
Thanks, John. Appreciate you, man.
Hey, Brian, John Worrell, can you hear me?
Hey, John. Gotcha.
Good. My deepest condolences on your loss and your to you two and your family. When Emmanuel Sanders, how beneficial is it that this guy has been around the league and probably at least we didn't see him get frustrated when the chemistry wasn't clicking with Josh in the first two games, and then to see things kind of smooth out yesterday where he caught 5 of 6 targets. Is that something to his character, to his experience? And what do you make of that in the fact that he showed the patience the 3 games into the season to have that game?
Yeah, good question. He's a true pro. You know, he's been around the block. He's played for some teams. He understands how this game needs to be played, and he understands, more importantly, the things that he needs to do off the field to try to put himself in a good position. Again, receiver is always a tough spot. You know, having coached it a long time ago and having some responsibility for those guys, like, it's not necessarily, they could be doing everything right for a game and they could be open, you know, 90% of the time, but a read or a blitz or something takes you off of it. So I always talk to my guys, the receivers that I coach a while back, is you got to have some mental toughness to play receiver in this league. Look, you want to catch 20 balls or 10 balls, and that's not always going to be the case, and maybe not even your fault that you're not getting it. And I think that he just, you know, exemplifies everything it is to be a pro. He's been great since he's been here. You know, I think that we're still growing. You know, we got a long way to go here, and you know, one week it might be that, the next week it might be one. You never know. But certainly happy that we have him, and you know, blessed to be around him.
And if I may, if you can, I mean, we've all watched the progression of Josh Allen, but if we all go back to the last time you played Houston, it got to be a bit of it wasn't a pretty second half and overtime really, but can you reference to how much he gained maybe from that experience for his first time on a big stage to where he is as of, you know, where he was on Sunday?
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to speak for Josh. I'm sure it's been a lot. It's just, I mean, this week, and again, just starting to dive into these guys, you know, Lovie Smith and the system that he uses. I mean, it's you know, that game seems like it's 10 years ago. But I think that he takes things from every game, good or bad. And I've talked about this before. He's his harshest critic. You know, sometimes you tell him he does a really good job, and you don't want to hear that. Yeah, I'm sure. Look, 2019 or whatever it was. I'm sure he's learned something, but I don't know how much he's, dwelled on that.
Fair enough, Brian. Thank you very much.
Thanks, John.
Coach Dave, Mookie Harkins, Buffalo Sports
Hey,
1080.
Mook.
How today, sir?
Good. How are you?
I'm okay, man. Sorry
Good.
for your loss, Coach, but great game
Appreciate
plan
you.
on Sunday. Thank you. Great game plan on Sunday, man. Scoring 8 out of 11 drives. I don't think Washington was ready for your outside zone last week. Yesterday, but it was real refreshing. I'm quite sure for you to see those guys execute. But what did you see in Josh yesterday that you didn't see in the past 2 weeks?
Yeah, I mean, look, to me, it's again a little bit overblown. And I kind of leave it at that. I got all the confidence in the world in Josh, and his job is to try to lead us down to score points and help us win football games. And he's really, just like all the other guys, we're including myself and the coaching staff. We're just trying to get better each week. He's got a great mindset. You guys know that. He practices. He's, competitive. He's, I could go on and on about him. I got a lot of faith in him.
Absolutely. We know it's always been a lot of premature criticism coming off of week 1, Coach, but nevertheless, you guys are past that. But talk about Dawson Knox. You were able to isolate him one-on-one yesterday, and he was able to deliver. And Zack Moss is finding some success, since being activated. Care to talk about those two, Coach?
Yeah, no, I think they're both, I talked about this a little bit in camp. They both have, look, Dawson has worked extremely hard since he's been here. I think that, with him and Rob Boris, those guys they're always over there doing individual things. And it seems like he just is out there practicing on every single rep, and it's paying off for him. He's got a great mindset. I think he's got a lot of confidence. He's in a good headspace. I know we certainly have confidence in him. The quarterback does. And, he's made a lot of plays for us here throughout training camp and leading into the regular season here. Again, it's not about how many catches and all those things. He's just doing the right things. And when you do the right things on a consistent basis, you earn the confidence of, I'd say, the coaching staff and of the quarterback. So, I've seen, that doesn't surprise me what he did on that play. It was a heck of a catch, but I've seen that throughout training camp here. And I think those are the things that gives you confidence, not just as a coach to a player, but a player for a player. And Zach ran really hard, which we know that Zach runs hard. He's kind of you don't think about him in the passing game, but every time we throw it to him, he usually makes a play on it. And that's important. And a lot of times it's down there in the red zone when something loose happens. So, working hard to improve. I think that's between Zach and Motor, those guys have a, good thing going, and just trying to improve with it.
Absolutely, Coach. You're doing a great job. Good luck this
Thanks,
week.
Mook. Appreciate you.
Yes, sir.
Hey, Brian, Tim Graham here.
Hey, Tim, how are you?
I'm doing all right. Would you do us the honor of telling us what your grandmother was like?
Yeah. She was awesome. She was tough, loving, loyal, family oriented. She'd tell it like it is. No question about that. Never wanted to sugarcoat things, made me into the man that I am today, along with my grandfather. She'd ride him pretty good, so I think he's at the house right now. So I don't know if he knows exactly what he has to do, because he's missing her riding him a little bit. She was a homemaker, took care of her 2 daughters, took care of me. She didn't like the limelight. So I know my son was telling me about, people supporting her and things like that. And she probably kicked my ass right now because of it. But, she's earned that for me. She'll be sorely missed. I know by myself and my grandfather and her daughters and my family and my wife and my kids. I could go on and on all day about what she means to me and the people that she touched. Great life. Just wonderful, wonderful woman. But yeah, Tim, tell her like it is. She ain't going to sugarcoat it. So, she'd be the first person I'd call after a game, and it didn't go well. It wasn't, you'll get them next time. It was, was a couple curse words in there, and pick your head up and do better. That's kind of what she was. So, big hole in my heart, just like I know a lot of people out there have holes in their hearts when they lose people. But, great memories of her, and love her to death.
Did I see that she and your grandfather were married 68 years?
Yeah, 68 years. So yeah, lived in the house that I grew up in, probably 50 years or so. Same house over there in West Seneca. My grandfather was a groundskeeper at West Seneca West pretty much his entire life. They owned a farm on East and West Road over there where the parks are, and then moved over to a little bit off Mill Road, and just two hardworking individuals, grinders, tough. Instilled a lot of me that I'm very thankful for.
Brian, thank you for your time.
Thanks, Tim.
Hey, Brian, it's Catherine.
Hey,
Thank you
Catherine.
so much. Good to see you, and thank you for sharing your grandma.
Yeah,
with
no, I
us.
appreciate that.
Yeah, when Josh was mentioning her yesterday, he talked to you
Yeah.
about last year when he went through a similar situation. You were there for him. Zack Moss shared with us last week how the team supported him. I know Saran recently lost someone too. So just, is there, I know teams all support each other no matter where you are, but is there anything about this team that stands out to you that's different when you've now been on both sides of that just recently and these other cases going back to last year?
Yeah, I just think that, Sean and Brandon have brought in good people. I don't think you can underestimate that. Look, we all have jobs to do, and you have to have some talent. You have to have love of the game. You have to compete, but I think the type of person that you are goes a long way, regardless of the role that you're in. We have, I'd say, a bunch of really good people within the walls here in the building that care for one another, that love for one another. And I think that's important. I'm just very thankful to be part of it and be around the people that we have here.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Hey, Brian, it's Sal. I want to echo everybody's sentiments in here that my
Thanks,
family
guys.
with yours. And
Appreciate you.
yeah, and a couple things about your grandma. I may have missed it. Could you tell us her first name?
Yeah, it's Ruth, R-U-T-H. Her last name's Kirsten.
Okay.
She came from a family of 10 brothers and sisters.
Buffalo born and raised, was she?
Yeah. She's been here her pretty much entire life, and strong. She's a strong woman there, Sal. And again, all of us are raised by certain people, and I certainly wouldn't be here without her.
Totally understand. The drive at the end of the first half, and then your first drive of the second half. I want to use the word maybe juxtaposition because it makes me sound smart. I don't know if that's right, but man, they were way different, right? You get the ball with 26 seconds left, and you have to get down and take a field goal, and then you go 98 yards total with the penalty mixed in there and take off 8-17. Can you just kind of go into the different mindsets of those drives and the execution of your team?
Yeah, so it was 26 seconds, right? I believe 26, 27. Yep. We had 3 timeouts. Give a lot of credit to Dennis Locke and to Mark Lubick. Those guys do a great job up in the box with me in terms of situational football and game management. And, I just can't say enough about the two of those guys. And then communication between those two and Sean and myself, Sean does a great job of putting us in different situations throughout the week. It's kind of how we start practice on Wednesday and Thursday, different situations, usually at the end of the half or at the end of the game. And, the communication, when you're up in the box of, hey, what's the next step? What are we planning on doing? And we're all on the same page. And, let's be aggressive here. We got 3 timeouts. So, look, you practice those things. You have an idea of what you want to call. Maybe those things get tweaked based on how you're getting played. So we came out and we threw a little 15-yard kind of out route to Diggs, and then came back and I think hit Bees and then hit Diggs again. And then there was 6 seconds left. So there's a lot of things going on. And, do we want to do one situation, or would we rather, take a chance to do another situation? So we went with kind of more of an out of bounds play and ended up hitting Dawson there for an extra 5 yards. And, you have, 10 plays to choose from and things like that. But the guys were dialed in, locked in. I thought, it starts up front with the good protection, and then Josh did a good job of just, managing himself, putting the ball where he needs to put it, and giving ourselves a chance to get 3 there at the end of the half, which was big. That's a good situation to learn from. And then, then we came out at half and had the ball backed up there, and second 10, Bees ran a great route. Josh stood in there. I think Bees had a second and 10, which was a big play, because you get the third and 10 in those backed up situations. There's things that could come on, and then you get the drive going a little bit. We got a couple third downs. I think Bees knocked 2 more in. It's good execution by the players, based on what we're doing. And they come out in the second half. They gave us a little bit of a different look than we had in the first half. We hit a couple plays. They went back to what they were doing. It was just, that's a 19-play drive. That's a long drive. So when you have those type of drives in this league, it's usually pretty hard to do, because at some point the defense is going to get you, right? Like, it's hard to have 19 plays. That means you got to be executing at a high level for a long period of time, usually. And, or you're getting a chunk of a play that you're missing out on, 2, 3, 4, 5 plays. If you get a 20 or 25-yard gain, you don't have to deal with that. But at the end of the day, it came down to execution of the players.
If I may, because you brought them up, are Dennis and Mark, do you communicate in game with them? Are they talking to you through these situations as you're going? Because there's so much going on.
Yeah, they're great. They've been here for a while. I just think they're fantastic at things that they do, in terms of really understanding situational football and time management and things like that. I just, those guys do a great job.
Thanks, Brian.
Yep, you got it.
That's all we have for today. Appreciate your time.
Thanks,
Coach.
guys. Appreciate everybody.
I do believe going away and coming back. Hello?
Hi, Coach. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, I can.
Great. We'll get started with questions. Hey, Leslie. Good to see you. Thanks for taking a couple minutes. After this defense, after they didn't force a takeaway in week 1, the past 2 games, they now have multiple forced turnovers in back-to-back games. Just what can you say about what they've been able to do, especially after week 1? I hate to keep going back to that, but especially after week 1, they were just so hard on themselves for not doing that. And now they have multiple takeaways in back-to-back games.
Yeah, we really felt like that was the difference in the game, not being able to get takeaways in that first ball game of the season. And we always place a heavy emphasis on taking the football away. And you don't always know if it's going to happen, but it's happened for us the last couple of weeks. And sometimes they come in bunches, and to get 3 yesterday that resulted in 17 points, it's a big deal against a good football team. And it'll continue to be an emphasis. And we hope to get more and more and more as the season goes on.
What have you seen from Matt Milano so far this season? It just seems like he's always in the right place, right time. He's all over the field, recovered that fumble and then had that big 4th down stop. Just what have you, from your perspective, seen from him so far this season?
Matt seems to be playing with so much more confidence. You can see it in his urgency, the way he's practicing, the way he's playing. He's much more vocal than he's ever been. There's just a whole nother level to his play. And he these first 3 games, he's been a good player for us all along, which is one of the reasons he was re-signed to a good contract. But he's taken his game to another level from an intensity standpoint, and it's really become infectious with the rest of our players. So just love the energy that he's bringing and the fieriness that he's playing with. And hopefully that'll continue.
Thanks, Leslie. Appreciate it.
Yeah, no problem.
Hey, Leslie, it's Kim Jones. How are you?
Hey, Kim.
I wanted to ask you about your secondary. They are, a year ago, we talked about the idea the defense was saying, wait a minute, we want the responsibility on us. And it just seems like this season they've come out and taken such ownership of that unit at a very early time when you get two guys with interceptions and you have Trey shutting down McLaurin and Taron Johnson playing so well. I'm just wondering, in the Bills' case, how much does the secondary in some ways determine the attitude of your defense?
Our secondary definitely makes a difference. I mean, we got two tone setters and Jordan Poyer, along with Micah Hyde, and the things that Tre'Davious can do as well. And you mentioned Taron, who's become a big-time playmaker for us. And Levi has really held his own in a lot of ways for us and making plays. But I think, Kim, at the end of the day, our D-line, that's the tone setter for our defense. Our secondary, they do a terrific job. And we feel like we have one of the better secondaries in the National Football League. And they play with a ton of energy. They make big plays for us. We have two of our best leaders on the team in our secondary, both Micah and Jordan. So in a lot of ways, they do it in a different way, just their attitude and approach to practice. And I think we have a physical secondary as well. We're not just guys who can cover and match receivers, but there's a certain physicality to our secondary as well.
Thanks, Leslie.
You're welcome.
Coach Frazier, Pat Freeman from 105.5 The Beat. How are you today?
Doing good, Pat. How are you?
I got a question. I know Levi gets a lot of criticism sometimes, but can you talk about the last couple of weeks? He made some big plays in Miami, and he played outstanding yesterday. Can you just talk about his progress?
Yeah, I think Levi has really come along for us, and he battled throughout the entire offseason. He and Dane were battling for that starting spot, and he won the job through some of his work in training camp as well as the preseason games he was able to play. And he's I don't know. I know people sometimes want to be critical, like you mentioned, but he's done a good job for us. It's hard not to be targeted when you're opposite one of the best corners in the league, in Tre'Davious White. You're going to get balls thrown at you. And I think over these last couple of weeks, he's stood the test. And I think he'll continue to do that throughout the season. But that's not going to stop people from throwing at him. But he'll continue to rise to the occasion.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Hey, Leslie, it's John. You mentioned the defensive line being a tone setter. How do you feel they played yesterday?
Yeah, I thought we did a really good job defending the run, not letting Washington become a two-dimensional offense. They dabbled with the run game a little bit early, and we didn't give them any light in the run game, and that was due to our defensive line really being physical. We didn't come away, John, yesterday with the sack numbers that we had the week prior or the quarterback hits, but we kept this quarterback on the move, made it really hard for him to get set and make throws. And I think that was a big contributor to the three takeaways that we ended up coming up with, in particular the two interceptions. Our defensive line affected the quarterback in a different way without the quarterback hits or the quarterback sacks, but making him move, making him throw on the run, and really blurring his vision at times when he wanted to make some throws.
Sean had mentioned earlier that he feels there needs to be more consistency, at least getting the quarterback down. And I know you had said the pressure had been there even a year ago and whatnot. The next step was taking him down. How do you get that consistency from that group? Understanding 6 sacks is, a ridiculous game, but I'm not saying you're satisfied, but tangibly seeing the results as opposed to just understanding that the quarterback was affected in some capacity.
Yeah, like I mentioned earlier, you have to be careful about getting caught up in the sack numbers, especially when a team is trying to get the ball out fast. You have to find other ways to affect the quarterback. And sometimes it's our secondary affecting them with their looks, John, just the disguise by our safeties, by our corners. We've had comments from opposing teams talking about how we just could not figure out what you guys were doing coverage-wise because of your secondary, which buys our defensive line another second to affect the quarterback. Doesn't necessarily mean we're going to get him on the ground, but we're going to keep his completion percentage down and limit the number of big plays they can get on offense. We'd all love to see multiple sack games, but if you can affect him and keep his percentage down and force takeaways, you're having a pretty good day on defense.
Thanks, Leslie.
You're welcome.
Hey, Leslie, John Worrell.
Hey, John.
To actually piggyback off that answer, because that's where I was heading, is it almost unfair to have a guy who's a third-round pick, a rookie third-round pick, a talented quarterback, yet still learning how to play at the NFL level, be facing a secondary that can throw a bunch of disguises at him? And inherently, is it more difficult for a young quarterback to be facing an experienced defense that you guys possess?
I don't want to say unfair, John, is the word I would use. We are the National Football League, and, we can't determine who we're going to play against, or, we don't determine it, I should say. But we're going to line up and do what we do and do it to the best of our abilities. And I mean, people have a ton of tape on us and how we do things, and they're going to adjust and try to figure out ways to defeat what we do. But we're going to continue to work to get better at what we do. And our goal every week is to affect the quarterback in different ways. And as I mentioned, and you referred to it, our secondary does a great job in helping us to do that, whether it's a veteran quarterback or maybe in this case, this week, being a young quarterback. That's one of our goals every week.
And just lastly, I mean, there were high expectations going into this season about your defense. The fact that you've not allowed 300 yards of offense yet, the fact that you've not allowed over 80 yards of rushing in a game yet, how encouraged and are you about that, especially based on where you were at this time last season?
Very encouraged. I mean, I was so encouraged that we were able to have an off season, a training camp leading up to the season, some preseason games to really, set the foundation for our defense. Although we had a number of guys returning, it's nothing like being able to come together and review and practice and do things to prepare for games. And I think that's really helped us to get off to a good start. There's a lot more football to be played, but I hope we just can continue to grow as the season goes on. But having an off season or a training camp has really helped us to get off to a good start.
Thanks, Leslie.
You're welcome.
Yes, good afternoon, Coach Frazier. George Redney, Challenger Community News. How you doing this afternoon?
Doing good, George.
Great. Well, question. I got a couple questions for you. One, what does it say about your defensive unit that all these guys wanted to come back? Levi Wallace mentioned when he said, "Man, I don't want to go anywhere else. I want to play here." Milano, almost all these guys. You can't get rid of these cats. I mean, that's a nice problem to have sometimes if you want them. But what does that say about your defensive unit?
Well, first of all, George, we don't want to get rid of them. We like them. Okay. They're our guys. I mean, when you have developed the players like we have, developing a late round draft pick like Matt Milano, a free agent, undrafted guy like Levi Wallace, or number one pick like Tre'Davious White, guys that are homegrown, and you're developing them within your culture, you like to keep them when their contracts are at that point where they can go other places. So we've been very fortunate to keep the nucleus of our guys together. And what it says to any players from other teams, that the culture in Buffalo that Sean has set up is really, really good. The fact that guys want to stay here, they want to re-sign in Buffalo. I mean, we're doing something right to create that type of environment where guys want to stay and they want to, finish their careers in Buffalo.
You're right, because usually somebody's, saying something. But hey, it's a good thing to have. And my second question, Jaquan Johnson, the hard-hitting safety out of Miami. I watched him play for the Hurricanes. He's a hard hitter. What was your assessment of his playing yesterday?
Well, you hit the nail on the head, hard hitter, because that hit he had on the quarterback when he was scrambling yesterday was kind of epitomized who Quan is. I mean, he's one of those guys who is tough, hard-nosed, and will really level you when you're out running in space. And we're excited that he's back and healthy and playing well for us on special teams. And whenever he gets in there, safety, we look forward to watching him play. He has a big upside, so we're excited about it.
Excellent. Thank you very much for your time, and good luck this coming week.
Thank you, George.
Hey, Leslie, it's Sal. Good
Hey,
afternoon.
Sal. Good
Hey,
afternoon.
you know me, I'm the guy who always brings up something negative. Not really, but I do want to ask you about the play, the 73-yard catch and run, and just
Yeah.
what happened on that particular play. Kind of reminded me of the opener with Jamison Crowder last year a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah, it was second and 8, and they ran a screen. I mean, we defended screens a 1,000 different times, but this one got out on us. You know, we were kind of in position, really didn't make the play. You don't like to see a screen pass go for 73 yards. You know, that's not what you like, but it was a good play by their offense. We were able to overcome it on defense and move on, but it was tough to see, but we'll grow from it.
When you watch that on film, is it sometimes where you say, look, they made a good play and he's fast, right? I mean, he was a fast runner once he got in the open field. Or do you look at it and say, hey, guys, you know, is it more about maybe just sometimes conceding to the fact that they put in a good play and they beat us and you have to move on from that?
Yeah, sometimes that's the case. And then there are other times where you look at it and say, what could we have done a little bit differently to help us in that situation? And that's the way I kind of looked at it. They did make a good play, good run by their back. And they did a good job of blocking with their offensive line. But there are some things that we can do a little bit differently that might help us. Because we're going to see it again. I mean, people copy it in this league, so we're going to get another screen like that, and we'll have to defend it better.
Thanks, Coach.
You're welcome.
Coach Frazier, Mookie Harkins, Buffalo Sports 1080. How you doing today, sir?
Doing good, Mookie. How are you?
Great. Coach, relying on a lot of four-man pressure yesterday to get the job done. Now, a total opposite from last week, but guess what? You got the same result, right? The defense was stout versus the run, and you know, you held Washington under 20% on third down. So was this the week to find out how much quality depth was really there on your defensive line?
Partially, you know, just a different strategy, like you mentioned, but looking for similar results, and we were able to get that. You know, we're always trying to research our depth and see where we are, but that wasn't the entire intent. Just the type of strategy we chose to use for this team. And glad that our guys made things work. I mean, to be able to come away with the 3 takeaways and hold the team to 18% on third down in our league, it's a big deal. So really good by our defensive line, good by our linebackers and secondary to put it all together and handle the things they needed to handle in the run game. And once it became a one-dimensional game where they had to throw, it was a lot easier for us to play defense.
Absolutely, Coach. And being a former DB yourself, how much joy does it bring you when both of your safeties can create turnovers? And what did your former teammate, Coach Ron Rivera, say to you about your team at the 50 yesterday?
Yeah, I mean, it's a great joy to see our safeties come away with picks in the same game. I mean, Micah and Jordan are big-time players for us, and I mean, they're outstanding. So for both of them to get an interception in the same game, outstanding for us. And talking with Ron before the game and post-game, just, you know, post-game, it was more encouragement, wishing them nothing but the best over the rest of their season. Glad that we got the win, walk off the field with a victory, but, you know, always pulling for my friend, who a longtime friend, and wishing him well with the rest of the season. But it was great to see him, and I wish the Washington football team much success going forward.
Absolutely, Coach. Good luck this weekend.
Thank you.
Hey, Leslie, it's Elena.
Hey, Elaine.
I was curious, you know, you mentioned Matt Milano being more vocal, more confident at his position. Why is that important, and what can that do for the defense?
Well, Elena, we put a lot on Tremaine Edmonds' plate to communicate to the entire defense. And there are times when you're in a loud stadium, like it can be at our stadium, when you're on defense and the opposing offense is on the field, you need another voice to echo some of Tremaine's commands. And in years past, that hasn't been Matt's deal. You know, we're trying to get him to get there. And, you know, we've gotten that from Jordan. We've gotten that from Micah, because they have to help the rest of the secondary. And we've been urging Matt to help Tremaine with that, with our defensive line, because we don't want our defensive line turning to look and find out what defense we're going to be playing when it's loud. And so to see Matt now verbally communicate you really echo some of what Tremaine's commands are. It's making us a better defense, and it's making him a better player because it forces him to lock in on every little detail, and it's something he's embraced from the off season through the preseason and now during the regular season. So it's really good for our defense that he's become more vocal in the communication.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
That's it for questions today, Leslie. Thank you very much for your time.
You're welcome. Good. So, yeah.